You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Gene Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Cosmos After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Cosmos After Show.
Shake me up, race me to the stars.
Sorry, I'm letting the music settle in, Marissa and Scott. I just want to hear the hook. The galaxy is
right,
ours.
The galaxy is ours.
There we go. Welcome, AfterBuzz TV Nation. We all know that with 27 million weekly downloads, downloaded in 75 different countries, we're your one-stop, one destination for true after-show entertainment. And this is Cosmos, a Spacetime Odyssey season. Well, it's the only season, episode 2, and it's, what is it? A sum of the things called molecules, I believe. No, some of the things... I'm a minute 21 in, I already forgot the title. What's going to happen tonight, man?
I know. And I watched it in piecemeal, so I didn't get the title, so it's up to you.
Hey, I'm JC, and sitting next to me, of course, my main man, Mr. Scott Moore. What's going on, Scott?
Yeah, it's great to be back. This was another really deep, meaty episode here.
To say the least. And of course, no show would be complete with who I'm going to call Lady Stats. Marissa Serafini, what's going on?
Lady Stats. Hello, everyone. JC, I think you enjoyed that song at the beginning.
I did, very much so. I have no idea what it is.
Never heard of it?
Tell us about it a little bit.
The song's called "A Galaxy Is Ours." If you're in the 20-30 age right now, being 2014, it's from a well-known Disney original Disney Channel original movie, Xenon.
Xenon.
First century.
All right.
Which takes place out in outer space.
Awesome.
Way to tie it in.
Right.
Yeah. And the episode for you, it's called "Some of the Things That Molecules Do," just to help you out there.
Now, was it some like S-O-M-E? Because that's what I thought it was, or was it S-U-M?
Some.
No,
S-O-M-E.
Okay.
Just some things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just,
So I was thinking some of the molecules,
things,
and they were
yeah.
trying to throw in some math on us or something.
Yeah.
so some of the things, which basically is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, general thoughts, and I mean, we can talk about that, but well, what were your thoughts about tonight's episode?
I thought it was interesting that we kind of delved right into pretty much our planet and getting the details with natural selection and evolution and things like that. I wasn't sure that we were going to jump right in this episode. I wasn't sure if we were going to continue exploring the outer space, and so it was interesting that we dived right into our history of our planet, which I guess makes sense. In the arc of the episodes. You
remind me of something. Everything you always trigger something from me when we're talking about the show. And last week I had said that to go outside, one must go within. And I just thought about that right now because I thought we were going to still continue our voyage on space,
right.
But like you said before we went on air, before we got to go out, we got to start in the basics. And once again, my brain is fried again.
Yeah, mine is too.
Way too much. And there was a lot of great feedback. Thank you, fans. We love that you love the show, and we promise to bring you all this entertainment. And stick around because we are going to break down the Cosmos app a little bit later as well. But just there was so much to digest, and I want to question what they were doing. Because last week there was a lot of flack. Talk about Oklahoma, the affiliate in Oklahoma who actually supposedly accidentally cut away for 15 seconds of the episode when they were talking about was it evolution or science? I'm trying to remember the exact part.
Yeah, I am too. I believe it was something with evolution, which again, like even in tonight's episode, there were little bits and pieces here where I thought, well, if people don't necessarily believe everything that's being said here, I could see that as being a prime takeaway of being able to edit just a few seconds there, talking about where he even says evolution is science fact. So I was like, that's saying a lot right there. And not everyone's necessarily going to believe that. So, getting back into political and religious stuff, I was wondering how some people took that in tonight's episode as well.
Yeah, because like you said, they did it again. And even our chat roll is talking about it. And this is from Ryan, was it Whitlison? I could almost hear the far... Was it with Taliesin? Yeah, I forgot the accent
Ooh.
there. My English is not
That's
very good.
that's a great last name. I love it.
Well, Ryan says, I could almost hear the far-right folks having fits about tonight's episode of Cosmos. And in a way, I don't think they should, because they're just presenting it. It's open for you, the viewer, to open up and debate about it. Debate with your family. Question everything.
And that's what they said in the first episode. They did say that, you need to question everything.
Yeah, no, that's all there. They're not telling you where to go with it, because you hear a lot of feedback about Dr. Tyson's he being an atheist and things of this nature, and that's not his job. Is just to present it. I know people are going to keep going on and on about this, but listen to both sides of the argument and make your decision. It leaves ultimately it is up to you, the viewer.
It is, but I can see where the political and religious stuff could end up taking a hit, especially like last week we were talking about with Bruno and some of the controversies there. They brought up with the Catholic Church and making the Catholic Church kind of look bad in a way. And then again tonight by saying point blank evolution is science fact. I personally believe that, but I'm just saying I think there would be people that could be watching it that have different backgrounds and different faiths that may not necessarily believe that. So I do think it kind of straddles that line of being a little bit kind of saying this is the way it is. But I do agree with you too. At the end of the day, you're watching this as a viewer, and then you have to decide if this is something that you believe or not and what you want to take away from it.
So they're telling us it's science fact, correct? Okay, so most of the most findings are through the scientific method and through test and evaluation, correct?
Right.
And that makes us question Giordano's story. And also tonight there was another story, the Saturn bit, which we get into a little bit later, which is visually stunning. But I have some problems with it, and so does some viewers. I was on IMDb, and he wrote about this. It is R. Partridge 2 on IMDb. Tonight's episode clarified my disappointment in the series so far. It's disjointed. Example, Tyson is talking about evolution on life and then takes us on a side trip to one of the moons of Saturn, presumably to show that alternative forms of life could exist in atmospheres. But he doesn't do that. He plunges his hokey spacecraft into the lake. And I'm going to cut it off there, because what I'm saying is there isn't facts that there's life in that water. It's all speculation.
Right.
So then, to me, I slightly agree. I love this show.
I do too.
But I do also want the show to stay in its mission statement, where it's saying, this is science fact. I understand there's the argument. Well, part of us, what leads us to speculate is that wonder.
Yeah, and but I do kind of think it is a good point to bring up as the potential of the other life forms and other opportunities out there, because I think we're so set on, Earth and life forms here and how they started and what they have to be able to survive, temperature and what type of air they breathe and what type of water they breathe if they're water creatures, and how they evolve. And it could be very different on lots of other planets and different universes. So I think it was good to at least bring that up.
Okay.
But in the sense of speculation, because that's part of science too, is having the hypothesis and exploring things and being able to do the research and see what works and what doesn't work. And so I do think at least that brings up a good point.
So do you think maybe they should address it like on an episode where Dr. Tyson can say, it is science fact, but we're asking you to keep an open mind, and that is the way science progresses, is through testing, through, like you just said, hypothesis and whatnot.
Theories and research and going through, the scientific process and seeing what works and what doesn't. So I could understand what that viewer was saying too, kind of questioning it was disjointed, because I agree a little bit. Sometimes they kind of go all over the place, and it seemed weird to focus on Titan and then come back to Earth. It did seem kind of odd. I think that was better set for maybe another episode if they're exploring the outer realms of space to talk about different potential possibilities for life. But.
Sure. No, and what I was going to say, one thing we are sure on though is coming up later was it this week?
Yeah.
It's a little show coming up with the boss lady, the Queen Bee, Miss Maria Menounos. Yes, our boss chief. She's Scott. Take it away. You wanted to talk about a little bit about the upcoming show of Conversations, or Chasing
Maria Menounos. No, I was gonna say, another show that I love, and I love Cosmos. This is another show that you guys are definitely gonna love, and it debuts this Tuesday, March 18th on Oxygen, and it's from our EP and our founder here of AfterBuzz, Maria Menounos. It's Chasing Maria Menounos, and take a quick listen.
Tuesdays on Oxygen.
I'm Maria Menounos, and my life can get a little crazy. I host Extra. I'm an actor, producer, dancer, wrestler, and a lot of other things. I live with Kevin, my boyfriend of 15 years. Do you really love me?
I would say that I'm in serious like.
And my parents. Yep, I just said I live with my parents.
You drive me crazy.
You drive me crazy. My parents want us to get married.
You both love each other. Get married.
Kevin and I don't. I am going to get married when I want to get married. I think I want kids. Kevin definitely doesn't want them now.
This is being pushed on us.
And of course, my parents wanted them yesterday.
This year, you gotta have it.
And I have a house full of people counting on me financially. If I take my eye off the ball, everything can fall apart.
It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or wants us to do. It's what we want to do.
Everyone thinks that they know what's best for me, but I'm really the only one. I have got to figure things out.
Chasing Maria Menounos is so new. Every Tuesday at 10, 9 Central, starting March 18th, only on Oxygen.
And welcome back. I'm excited. I can't wait to see it.
I've got it we're prepared to record on the old DVR, so it's there and waiting.
And one thing I do love about it, they are the biggest animal lovers I've ever met in my life. So one thing, they have their love, their passion for their dogs, and
which I love as a big animal lover and owner of 2 dogs, so it makes me very excited to.
And how ironic was it that he opens the episode tonight about natural selection is Dr. Tyson. Well, first he's chasing off wolves, but he decides to explain the transition from wolves to dogs. You know, and happening about 30,000 years ago, where and how I just loved how the fact that they said cuteness was involved.
Yes.
So somehow evolution knew cuteness would further the species and changes. And I came across a little article, actually, I think I even tweeted about it today, where because Dr. Tyson talked about the evolution came from the gray wolf. And in now science, I think it was Christian Science Monitor was talking about that it's not necessarily a gray wolf that dogs evolved from. It was from a separate dog that is a separate wolf that is no longer with us. It is now extinct.
Yes, I did hear about that too. There was an article fairly recently, and I don't even know if it was the same one, but back maybe several months ago that I read in the LA Times, and it was basically talking about the same thing about how they evolved from a wolf that's no longer in existence anymore. But I did find it is interesting. I mean, that article that I read in the LA Times took it a little differently than the way the way Cosmos broke it down, which I do kind of believe this theory here too about the sort of the artificial selection, and how humans basically had a hand in evolving the wolf and getting it to be what we know known as today's canine, today's dog.
Right, and how
domesticated them.
And how it happened, it transpired over a case of about 10,000 years?
Yeah, about 15, 20,000 years. I mean, it's pretty quick turnaround when you think about it in the big picture of things, of how quickly they evolved into domesticated animals.
The artificial selection versus natural selection, which has taken billions of years. And my wondering is, and I wanted to actually ask this to our viewers, what's the next step in artificial selection? If we did this with dogs, and now with our technology, the way things are moving, what's next? Are we talking transhumanism? What are we talking? What's
like a mix of cyborg, human? I mean, we're already kind of there in the sense of what you could say now with GMOs, genetically modified organisms, or that's sort of what I would say is the current artificial selection of being able to manipulate genes and make for plants and other things to change how much they grow, how their yield, everything else. So I would say like GMOs are probably today's, and also controversial in their own selves too, as far as us doing artificial, selection and mixing and matching fruits and vegetables. And
see, I was going way too sci-fi, man. That makes sense. Okay, yeah, we're in that right now.
No, but I do think like future, like you said, like will there be a mix of like man versus machine? Like, are we going to start replacing, body parts with machine type parts?
I believe is it Ray Kurzweil is the one that says that will happen. I think like in 2029, 2046, somewhere around there.
And that machines will actually, in a sense, be smarter than their creators and have more actual intelligence and be able to comprehend on their own.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, let us know what your thoughts, guys. What's next for natural selection, or even, artificial selection and also natural selection? What's next?
Yeah, what's next for us?
What's next for us?
Natural selection as humans.
What's next for us is breaking down DNA.
Oh man,
I know this is I've heard a lot on boards. People are like, oh, this is remedial science.
Right.
No.
Science 101, but it's good stuff to kind of rehash, even if you did have that in school.
You know what? I'm gonna say I did not remember half these lessons I've been taught through these first 2 episodes of Cosmos. And one thing that I learned after watching the first episode, and we talked about it before we went in tonight, that when I walked out of the door, all I do now is look up. It's made me want to look up, just wonder, and I think that's the genesis of the show.
Yeah, I agree, and even just and now even tonight, like just being able to walk around and look at the trees and the grass, and like when I'm taking my dogs out for a walk and notice their details and the way that they've obviously partly naturally and artificially been selected, but like pay attention to the details a little bit more too of just the earth around us and how detailed and fascinating that is.
And the fact that you brought up trees makes me think of tardigrades. Tardigrades are the kings.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I mean, those guys are the badasses.
Yeah.
They're better than cockroaches.
I know. Here I thought it was like cockroaches and Cher that would be around after the end of the life as we know it, but apparently these creatures will be.
Yeah, so definitely but what I found so fascinating, because it was all a common thread, and it's how just that one mutation is what creates what we are today. It all started with one mutation from a DNA strand. That was it.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, like you said, it's true. Like you think of mutations in a lot of ways as being negative, but for the most part, they're not. They're either harmless or they help give an advantage to species. But you think of mutation, you think, oh, that's you just automatically think, oh, it's bad. And yes, there are some mutations that can be deadly to the species or the animal, but most of the time they're actually pretty good.
And talking about like with evolution and whatnot, and I don't know if Marissa maybe has even heard of this. Have you heard of the fact that we are evolving in such a way because the loss of use of thumbs, that we were going to become our thumb and our index finger would be webbed, just because of the way we're talking hundreds of thousands of years from now, maybe millions of years from now. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So are you saying that we're going to revert
back
to
to
the
Not
past?
revert, no, but for some reason, I think it's because of just the way we use our hands. I am lost here.
I was like, because
we used to be, right?
Sorry,
yeah,
that's backwards.
we used
Yeah.
to be, but I believe the human kind of surpassed everyone else because we do have the opposable thumbs.
Correct.
So.
Okay, so tells you what I know. I'm learning with you guys. I told you this was going to happen throughout.
That'll go back to being webbed when we, use, human parts and we can breathe underwater too. So that's when we'll be, both living the land and the sea again.
Like Aquaman.
Yeah.
Basically. And
so we'll need those webbed thumbs and fingers then.
but back. Everything bringing us back now to the fact that he brought up about DNAs that were basically tiny universes onto ourselves. And the correlation between is there a way where we'll be able to explain what's going on inside of us to what's going on outside of our own galaxy, our own Earth? Is it all one and the same? Was that what they were trying to infer there?
I know that's what you kind of think about, because if you are big on energy and things like that and how energy all pulsates and it's all connected, and you get the stories that everyone always says, oh, you're not an island because we're all connected, and in a way, going back to the first episode of being like we're all star stuff, in a way you do kind of feel that way, is that there's so much going internally that could be connected to what's going on externally, and it goes to just in general how we function and how much we do have to function on the way the universe is, from the amount of sunlight and to everything that happens outside affects us internally, and our own little mini universe is affected by the outside universe.
Are you talking about that? So, how part of the show he shrank the spaceship of the imagination down to such a tiny level. Does that mean what you're saying is shrinking it even more into like a quantum level, stuff that we do not know yet, to be able to explain other questions, give answers to questions that we still have?
Yeah, I do think so. And again, like going back to that theory of being a mini universe, it's like we, even as humans, we're host to billions of bacteria, of these own living creatures that are within us. So yeah, it's like we are our own ecosystem, but we're also very much influenced by what goes on outside as well.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how I feel like we're all connected in that sense.
And it's funny that he said that you brought it connected, because that's where he made his commentary about apes and chimpanzees and us. And that's where I'm wondering if Oklahoma will once again black out the 15 seconds where he talked about he took another shot. I wrote down, there's another kind of shot against, religion in the religious sector. And it was just asking people just to entertain the idea, because he said we are all one and the same. The DNA proves it.
Well, and what they had said at one point, it's like everything started from a one-celled organism and then advanced from that point. And it is pretty spectacular. And they had that whole sequence there with the drawings, and you kind of watched the history there of becoming that one-celled organism as it moved and evolved and came out of the sea and went onto the land, and how those land creatures evolved as well. So, yeah, I mean, it is a fascinating thing to think about. But I think even the more amazing thing is the fact that we really don't even know how life actually began. Even now, even with all that science and nobody really knows the origin of life itself, and that is pretty spectacular too.
And in essence, that's what the episode was. I think it was just a plea to those people that are watching at home, that child or that man or woman that's watching it, and could you be the one that gives us that answer?
That finally solves that mystery, because it is really amazing that of all that we know, everything, we have no idea where it all began.
So then does that open the lane for the faith-driven people that are saying, well, you guys don't know either, science doesn't know either.
Right, and I do think it does, because I think it can open up that discussion again by saying, look, we don't know where life began. Was it from, a bigger universe that, there was a creation of a bigger entity? Because we still don't even know, like last week, where all the universe, how big it really is, where does it begin, how does all that happen? And so it can lead to a lot of other questions, a lot of other discussions.
See, all this, just these complex systems that we're talking about, and I want to move on to this complex system that I believe we all take for granted. The human eye, the eye.
Yeah.
The eye, which he said himself, cannot be. It can't be. It's more complex than any system any human has ever designed, and how it came to be.
It is. But also again, it's not even as good as it once was when it was in the water, where life originally formed was in the water. And I think that's the other cool thing too, because we kind of touched on that as well, is that. We haven't even discovered all the creatures and animals and plants that are there on the earth now, because you think about, the depths of the oceans and what type of creatures may live at 15, 20,000 feet below the surface that we've never discovered. So it's a whole other thing too, that there's a whole other world of animal and plant life in our oceans.
Do you see, could there possibly be a separation where artificial and natural selection deviate from each other? Because what's next for the eye?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Because evolution could go a certain way, but now man's tinkering. Now, where are we going to go? How do they work hand in hand?
Right.
Because natural selection will take billions of years, but we can do it next year. There might be an Apple product. It might be the II.
Exactly. The II. Yeah.
So it just.
Yeah, it is pretty incredible.
It leads. I still don't know. It took 375 million years for it to evolve into the fact that we can't see what's right in front of our noses. That was one of his quotes on the episode.
That was one of his quotes, and that you can't see in near darkness. You can't differentiate, unlike fish, which can. But yet the eye is so detailed and incredible, though. On the flip side of the coin, there.
Would we stop evolving? Because now we have technology that's into our lives that no longer we don't need it to survive. Now we have apparatuses, devices that have the sight for us.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point, because I've often thought about that too. It's like, how do we evolve more as humans now? Because we've gone backwards, not so much in the intelligence, but we've become so dependent on technology and our sedentary lifestyles, and we're not where we were before, where we don't know how to instinctively survive if all of our modern conveniences were taken away, because we have moved so far ahead with our technology that we wouldn't know how to live in the outdoors necessarily and go hunt for food. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost to the point that we've moved past that. I'm like, well, where do we go from there? Now people have issues of of sedentary lifestyles and having health issues with that. Like, how is that gonna? Are we almost moving backwards in a sense? Even though our intelligence has continued, is there a point to where we won't be able to get any smarter, and are we reverting in a way?
So you're telling me I still have a shop for web thumbs?
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet.
You know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it does bring up a whole other side thing because we're not used to being able to hunt on our own and have to survive in the wild. Like, we wouldn't be able to do that. So,
And could that regression lead us into extinction, like our next segment where they started talking about the halls of extinction, which was shot, and I will bet my lunch money on this one that it was shot in New Mexico. And I actually had a conversation with a friend of mine who was working behind the scenes for the show, and we're gonna try to get him next week. We were unable to get him tonight, but he definitely wants to talk about it, and he talked about working on it because I recognize, I was like, that's
right. You're from there. You look at it and you're like, of course. And you see the topography and you kind of know, like when I see something from Florida, I know right away. I'm like, that's Florida.
Yeah. And I was raised in New Mexico, and I've never seen a building like that ever. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're like, why haven't I ever gone to the halls of extinction?
You know, and then that brought up the fact where, once again, Dr. Tyson always brought up that the universe is trying to kill us. Where he starts talking about the 5 different extinctions. And I don't know if there was any of that stood out to you. We're talking about, because it was going hand in hand. He was talking about the trilobites and their evolution of vision.
Yeah,
You know,
and that they made it through all of the 5 episodes, basically, right?
Did the trilobites?
Or not the trilobites. It was the other ones that made it through.
That's the tardigrade.
Tardigrade. See, I'm getting them confused now because they both have the T's there.
I think the trilobites were part of something. Is a term that in the research is called the Cambrian Explosion, and that is where the highest evolution of eyes in the history of time, and it was where it's just a rapid transition where we have our eyes where we are today. But then they were around for the apocalypse of the Siberian volcanoes.
Yeah.
That it was hundreds of thousands
of years. Again, it's just that amount of time is just crazy.
And that you and I, Marissa, and wouldn't be here. You know, it nearly wiped us all out.
Yeah, and again, I think that was the one that stood out to me was that what they called the Great Dying, because it was like 9 out of 10 species went extinct then, and then how uninhabitable the planet was after that for so long. It's just amazing that life was able to make it through and then come back and thrive and better than ever, basically.
What were the remains? There were some remains of some animals, and we said, wait,
I know they looked very dinosaur-like.
But this is before the
dinosaurs, so I don't know what they were supposed to be either. And I don't know. Again, if viewers want to be able to comment and let us know.
Yes.
Because I was very curious about that too. I'm like, they look dinosaur-like, but they can't be.
Yes, AfterBuzz TV Nation, you guys watching us live. Joseph Boza, Ryan, everyone watching at home, hello. But if you're not watching us live, go to iTunes, please. Thank you so much for the wonderful reviews last week. I really do appreciate them, because this is a little bit of a different show for us at AfterBuzz. So, and a viewer wrote that, this is a different type of show, so you guys got to approach it differently. And we really appreciate those comments. Let us know what you think, what could make it better. We're definitely we're reaching out to a lot of people. And stay tuned in the upcoming weeks, but you got to give us at least 5 stars. We really would appreciate at least 5.
So we can get those big smart science people in.
Yes, Lord knows we could use them. No, but it's funny that you mentioned that. There's a quote, and I lost. It was a fantastic quote. Oh, Dr. Tyson writes about, "I'm honest about my ignorance." And let's just say I'm really, really honest about my ignorance, because right now, just everything that we still do not know.
Right.
And the fact that these little creatures, I don't know if you want to move on to the I can't even say their names, the tardigrades.
Yeah, I can't say any of the tardigrades, I believe, right?
The Pop-Tarts. Yes.
Yeah.
The tardigrades are literally, could they have been from another planet?
I know, again, that comes up too is the theory.
They have to be.
They could be. Again, it goes back to us not knowing the original origins of the life itself, so...
But, okay, they can withstand radiation that's not from this planet. How does that come to be?
Right, and they can be in solid ice, they can be in boiling water. I mean, they can survive in type of climates that no other animal or plant would be able to do.
Right.
It's pretty incredible. And that goes back to the theory, did something come... like these single-celled organisms come from another planet and, hitch a ride on an asteroid. I mean, there are so many theories that abound, and it is really interesting and fascinating. And that kind of goes back with that whole Titan thing with the planet or the moon there of Saturn. And just the thought that could there be other life forms that breathe differently, that, use different energy sources than what we would think would be required for life.
Right. No, and
I mean, what constitutes that as life, you know? So
I know you're as interested as I am on the tardigrades, and
yeah,
I just, if you guys want to watch at home, there's a great Vice episode that they talk about in depth about tardigrades.
they did, and I missed that episode. God,
They talk
did
about
they really?
Yeah.
Wow, and I totally must have missed that episode. That's crazy.
So it's so funny. We're devoting ourselves to something that's to the size of a pinpoint.
Yeah, right.
And now we're going to move on to, I know the part you've been waiting for.
Crazy.
Titan.
Yeah.
The largest, one of the largest moons on Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 times denser than the Earth. And why did he want to go there?
Well, that's what I think, again, when it goes back to the other viewer, that question that's kind of felt disjointed. I even agreed with that, too. It was like, why of all places was that chosen? Why not Mars? Or why not, you know, like, what was it about Titan that they felt they had to choose that? And I guess my only suggestion is possibly, again, because it brings about that our idea of our definition of life maybe needs to be expanded. And to think that there could be other, even though it was just all theory, and that we have no idea if there is any life forms on there, but it's the fact of being able to look beyond of what we think the definition of life is, and what would, you know, the requirements that we think would need to happen, that would need to happen perfectly for life to exist.
You know, and we're trying as hard as we can. And Scott, I got to commend you, because I feel like I throw you under the fire every 2 minutes. I'm like, tell me what meaning of the universe is, and you're so deftly handle it. But we mainly talk about TV shows, and I definitely want to talk about the effects, the special effects we saw tonight. And once again, I was giving the Spaceship of the Imagination a kind of a hard time last week. It wasn't my favorite part, but
No, I agree. You and me both.
it's growing on me. It grew on me going into Saturn, and I'm like, because I'm thinking this is TV,
Right.
and it's the production value behind it, the effect, and I've heard some people say, you know, it's a little cheesy.
Right.
I disagree. I liked it tonight. I really liked, for some reason, when they went into Saturn, into Titan.
Yeah.
And just the exploration of that. For TV to do that, to me, it sets a fine line between that and cinema. To me, and from a visual standpoint, I'm seeing kudos to the production value behind it tonight.
No, I agree. We were saying it off camera earlier, is that I feel it's sort of the vehicle, pun intended in a way, no pun intended, but it's the vehicle of the way they chose to be able to take us to these different worlds, or take us into, you know, like we had seen about the bears and their internal bodies and everything. It's the vehicle that they chose to be able to bring us to these different places, rather than just be like, okay, we're going to transition and now we're zooming in on a planet or whatever. So this was the way they did it, and I do agree. It's TV. It adds a really nice production value to it. It adds some really, you know, it's a way of being able to use the CGI and use what we have now, which when the first Cosmos came out in 1980, they didn't have that type of technology to be able to do that. So yeah, I do think there's part of that, and TV is entertainment and it is educational, but in a way you still want to provide entertainment, and that's their choice of being able to do it.
Okay, so let's put us in the director's chair. Could we have thought of something? I would have done, instead of going to Saturn, instead of going to Titan, I would have postulated, since they are also throwing it out there, possibilities, what the future could be of natural and artificial selection, because that's what this whole episode was about.
Yeah.
So why didn't they look at a possible future? Was this some of the little asides that he was saying when he was like in the Hall of Extinction, like we're gonna save that hall for later? Was he referring to us? I'm probably, I imagine
probably, because I think about that too. We're on our own ticking clock in a way too.
And so I would have, or would that have been seen as a scare tactic? The extinction of us, because I don't see Titan's placement. I think I would have rather have seen the possible future.
Right, because I do feel that was, again, I can understand that whole disjointed, and also the fact that because it was all speculation as well.
Yeah. Is there anything you would have wanted to see?
How and why they chose that? Well, I think it was an important thing to do as far as, just expanding the definition of the possibility of life and what that entails and what that means. But I didn't really understand why they pick something like that instead of something that was closer to home like Mars, where it's been in discussions and where we have a rover on there and there's been talks about was there life on Mars and everything. I felt like that would have been the better one to maybe go with, but they went in with the extreme of like a whole different way of life. But I think too, like just explore the I could see what you're saying. Like, if it was a scare tactic, like, especially if you threw in things like the way we're treating our planet, would that be considered a scare tactic to, change things in global warming and this and that? I mean, I've heard all kinds of theories too. In the way, like you said, humans in a way are almost like a virus. Some scientists even referred to that. They're almost like a virus, and I could see their side of that. It's like we quickly multiply, we take over all the resources of a host, and we basically kill it off. So in a weird way,
wasn't that from the Matrix?
Was it from the Matrix?
I think it's from the Matrix.
It probably was from the Matrix. I'm forgetting because I haven't seen the Matrix in a couple of years, but I've heard that theory before. In a way, it kind of makes sense though. It's sort of like you take over the host, which in this case would be the planet, and then you basically destroy it because you take it over by quickly multiplying. And
but you're spot on once again, because the fact that you're saying Mars, why not the possibility that maybe the tardigrade came from Mars?
Yeah, it hitched a ride on an asteroid and came over. But also just as the future, like you said, if we kind of tied it into the future, would this be something that could be a livable place for humans and generations to come? Would this be something that we could explore? Whereas I don't feel like Titan could, and especially it wouldn't be suitable for life when they're talking about for life on our planet could never survive in Titan.
I wish they would
because
have
of the temperature and the gases and everything else.
I wish he would have expanded on saying, just how cold it is on Titan.
Well, I know, because he said what was it, hundreds of billion, or it was like 100. I forget.
I missed that. I didn't hear that he actually mentioned an actual.
He did mention. I don't want to say 100 of billions because that sounds really too dramatic there, but
very cold.
Hundreds of degrees below zero. There we go. Not billions. Hundreds of degrees below zero, which again would not be suitable for Earth life. And also that, methane and ethane that are gases on Earth here are actually in liquid form there because it is so frigidly cold.
So it's colder than Hoth from Empire Strikes Back.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So it's very cold.
So before we,
you think it was cold in the winter in the U.S., it would be, that's shorts weather for Titan.
Ah, well said. So anything else that we got left after another close by Mr. Sagan himself?
Yeah, which again was great. I wasn't expecting that.
No,
I love that homage again. I thought maybe the first episode was going to be the only one as they were kind of introducing the viewers to this rebirth, this refreshed, cosmos. I didn't expect them to go back with him in this episode, so I like that a lot, actually.
Nice. So definitely a lot to talk about. Please continue the conversation with us on YouTube and iTunes. Let us know stuff that we might have missed and give us some answers and make fun of me for the web finger thing. That'd be fantastic. But definitely, let's move on to. Oh, Marissa, you're gonna say something? I thought you were moving on. I thought you had a point. Lady Stats.
Lady Stats from watching the original Cosmos.
Well, I noticed when they had the animation on that episode near the end with the evolution of the creatures to creatures. That I'm pretty sure that was in the original Carl Sagan.
Yes.
Because I vividly remember that. So.
Yeah. It was 400 million years in, what, 40 seconds?
40 seconds, yeah.
But I liked how they bring this current cosmos back to the original, because if the original wasn't that great or memorable, I don't think there'd be the new revamped version or reboot of Cosmos.
And you're right, because
absolutely
there's something behind that, because since then there's been tons of it. There's Nova, there's Through the Wormhole, there's all these other but for some reason people wanted to see Cosmos, and it's because Mr. Sagan said it himself. He said it with a way that he cared about. He made you care about it. So, very, very much so.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why we're back here 34 years later. So with that said, another great episode. So let's move on to a little gadget review on Cosmos, the app. I know I'm not doing news and gossip, but I want to talk about fans, because fans are saying, well, I want to get more Cosmos outside of the after show on AfterBuzz TV, but you can also download an app, and it's on iTunes. You can get it for your Android as well. And I downloaded it this past week, and I will have to say, it left a little to be desired.
Really?
I can't believe I'm saying that. You could tell. I'm thinking they spent a lot of time on the show, 7 years, but I think they could have spent a little more time on the app.
Wow, I haven't downloaded it yet, but I will for the iPhone this week and see. I mean, is it more of getting extra features, information?
Yes. You're supposed to be. It gives you bios on of course Andrian and Dr. Tyson and everyone behind production.
Okay.
And little snippets. But nowadays, I think with YouTube and what we have, we can find it all on our own so much quicker. And the UI mine kept crashing over and over. It crashed about 20 times, but when it gets working, it's beautiful. It's as beautiful as the series. So I just hopefully they can add a little to it, but I'm only gonna give it 3 Milky Ways out of 5. I'm giving it a rating. I'm sorry.
I love it. 3 Milky Ways, and I'm automatically I'm thinking of like the candy bar. So I'm like, ooh, now I want a Milky Way candy bar. I'm gonna try it out and just see, because you do feel like they should be able to take advantage of this.
Yes.
And really, right now, even if it was something you could follow, like would be really cool if they had like a feature you could follow along with the show. Almost like a pop-up thing, and they could give you a little more detail as you're like as a second screen type thing, which you feel that would be a great way to do that.
Or for the calendar, they could do the cosmic calendar. It's like, on this day, this happened.
That would be great too.
Forgive me, you know what?
That would be fantastic.
Like every single day, a notification of what happened.
As like the cosmic calendar of what would have happened in the scope of things.
That'd be awesome.
See, they should have that feature too.
I'm gonna reassess. Okay, 3.5 instead. I forgot they did have the cosmic calendar, and they did explain it. I was just so mad that it kept crashing on me, but they do have little highlights throughout the cosmic year, throughout the cosmic calendar. So yes, and that was probably to me that was my favorite part of it, aside from the eye opening on the app itself. So definitely check it out. Let us know what you guys think.
Yeah,
so
I'd love to hear what everyone else thinks too.
Let's get out of here. Let's do some predictions. Do we
And
even
now,
know
your AfterBuzz
what's going on
TV
next week?
Predictions.
I do know that in the next few, I read somewhere that the next, I think it's 5 out of the next 11 episodes are going to be dealing with quantum physics. Wow. So we're definitely going to bring in someone for that one, because
someone that's really smart. Where's the like the Cliff's Notes versions for some of these episodes where I could just quantum physics? I'm like, woo.
5 episodes on that, but I don't know if they're still the next episode's going to deal with a little more of the exploration of the creation of life, and I know that's where they ended this past week, because we missed out the end because we technical problems. We missed the last because it stopped recording in the big room, so we missed the preview for next week. So let us know, or better yet, I'm going to try to do is I'll go on YouTube and I'll put the little link for for next week's preview, so just so the fans have it, so that we can see it too. But
yeah, because it's hard to predict. It's like one of those shows. In a way, it's almost like an animated show, to where you just don't know what to say because you don't know where they're going to go with this. There's so many. When you're talking about the universe,
there's more questions than answers.
Yes, and you got to question everything, and it's endless.
So let us know what you think. So Scott, once again, thank you so much for an awesome show.
Yeah, thank you.
Where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on the old Twitter at sman80. That's sman80, and here on Monday nights for the Archer and Shows and After Shows.
Nice. And Marissa, thank you for making us behave again. Where can they find you?
Of course. You can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Serafini TV.
Nice. And are you doing any other shows?
Oh, of course. I do Once Upon a Time, Glee, Parenthood. Yeah, I'm always here. So.
Yeah, I was like, you do everything.
I do a bunch of random shows.
She's the Jamaican. She does like 14 shows.
That's right. The lights wouldn't be on without her here.
And you can follow me on JC Rubio TV on Instagram and Twitter, and possibly doing the red carpet for Dancing with the Stars. If that's your thing, check it out. So for Scott, Marissa, I'm JC. We're your Cosmos After Show. Good night.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.